Oh, hello. Welcome in. We're waiting for the Senate hearing to start. It's the Judiciary. It doesn't, I mean, it looks like it's supposed to be starting soon. It would look if you were checking it out. It looks like, oh, it's been going. But no, this is actually the placeholder for the budget. So I don't know, they're running behind, or whoever's supposed to be doing this thing in advance didn't do it. That's okay. We're here together. And we will wait. We are patient. We can do this together. So this is a hearing on deepfakes. Let me Tarantino it back a little bit. This is titled, I'm completely thrown off my axis here because I feel like we're not in the right place. Sorry. Because it was live a few minutes ago, but now it says the whole length of this video is 6 minutes and 21 seconds. So I'm like, where am I even in the right place? What did I click off? But no, this is the right place. The good, the bad, and the ugly. AI generated deepfakes in 2025. And our witnesses are Martina McBride, multi-platinum country music singer and songwriter from Nashville, Tennessee. Mitch Glazier, CEO, Recording Industry Association of America, Washington, D.C. Christen Price, Senior Legal Counsel, National Center on Sexual Exploitation, NCOSE, Washington, D.C. Justin Brookman, Director of Technology Policy Consumer Reports, Washington, D.C. Suzana Carlos, Head of Music Policy, YouTube, and Brooklyn, from Brooklyn, New York. So this is a very music-centric hearing on deepfakes, if you will. And again, it was sort of live-ish, and then it just kind of became this trailer for the wrong video completely. So you're gonna have to bear with me. These Senate staffers aren't they're not real producers. They're doing the best they can usually. 9 times out of 10 they're on time and everything's running perfectly. But it's funny because this is the placard here says Committee on Appropriations, Subcommittee on Interior, Environment, and Related Agencies. That is not the case here. We're in the Judiciary Subcommittee on Privacy Technology and the Law. And who is on the Subcommittee for Privacy Technology and the Law? And that would be an excellent question. And the ranking member of that is, I believe it's Marsha Blackburn. She's the chair. Sorry, I do this once a day. I confuse ranking members and chairs and their titles. Marsha Blackburn's the chair. Lindsey Graham, John Cornyn, Josh Hawley, and John Kennedy and Ashley Moody. If you're wondering why we're here, it's the Josh Hawley, John Kennedy double dragon team, if you will. Minority members are Amy Klobuchar ranking, Chris Coons, Richard Blumenthal, Alex Padilla, Adam Schiff. Sometimes good for a little entertainment. But as of right now, did they start yet? 6:21 and the wrong placard. I don't know. And the thing that's a little frustrating about the Senate is that they are the archivists for their own hearings. What do we mean by that? And what I mean is the House. You'll find each House committee and has their own YouTube page, and all of their hearings go live and they are archived there on YouTube. But that is not the case for the Senate. The Senate, I don't know if any of them have YouTube pages. They all keep their own stuff in-house on Senate.gov, and occasionally, C-SPAN carries it, but it is a little buried. I am planning on dethroning C-SPAN someday, or merging. I'm not, doors open, C-SPAN. Call my people. I am my people. Yeah, I would organize this site differently. Just slightly, Committees, there we go. Buried, like I said. Judiciary. And I just want to see if they're more live than we are right now, because they're going to sneak it in on us, is what they're going to do. Let's assume, no matter what way I go in from, it's kind of not the right thing that we're looking for here. So let's go to YouTube and see if some other service is carrying the Senate here. Senate Judiciary. Let's just Right. Our friends at Forbes. Let's go see if they are live with the hearing. What the? Oh, this is a pending nomination hearing, but it is from earlier today. But it's not what I was looking for. Okay. They're watching, I guess, over at Forbes Breaking News. They got Marco Rubio. I guess he's before appropriations. It's budget season, if you haven't noticed. So a lot of this stuff is appropriations and budget committees, and you'll see him on one side of the House, Bobby Kennedy, let's say, on the House before Rosa DeLauro and company, having a good old laugh. And then, the following days, he'll be in front of the Senate and their committee. So that's right now. That's happening right now. 2026 is what we're talking about. Yesterday's hearing on JFK. Now, we have more people like right here, right now, than we had for the entire JFK hearing yesterday. And I don't know if it's just that it's a stale topic or it's something else. But as you can see, the Judiciary is displaying a Committee on Appropriations placard, wrong subcommittee, and I swear it was the right thing before. Should we call the people and see, just to make sure things didn't start yet? That might be what we have to do. I like to check X also. Sometimes you can kind of get an idea what the chairs are doing and stuff. People that are in the committee will be posting on X right up until you'll see them in the rooms taking pictures with folks. Not, kind of like this one with Mr. Wonderful and Steve Wozniak, but the witness and say like the chair. I'm thinking of Comer and a few different people. We have Josh Hawley, but I believe he's questioning nominees right now. Couldn't get one in this morning, folks. I couldn't. I was busy. I promise. So it looks like we're waiting on the committee to start. It does look all jacked up, so maybe I will call. We've called before. Forget what subcommittee that was. We're like, hey, you're muted. So, and they started the whole thing over again. Like, stop calling. I get it.
Thank you for calling the Senate Judiciary Committee. How may I help you?
Hi, the committee is. They're working to fix it right now. Thank you so much.
Yep, of course. Yeah, have a good rest of your day.
You too, be well. Bye. So Senator Blackburn is doing her opening statement right now, and the clerks are working on it. So like I said, they are trying their hardest, and God bless them for trying. They had it, and they lost it. They probably did the same thing that I do. Hey, Lewis, what's going on? We're waiting on the Judiciary. The clerks are working on it. They're aware of the issue. Blackburn is I guess halfway through her intro right now. I didn't want to put the guy on the spot, so I tried to put as much of the conversation off on mute as I could. But yeah, they're aware of it. They're working on it. I guess that just means we're hanging out together for a little bit. I got to come up with some more talk about. I rely heavily in these moments. I rely heavily on X. So let's see. What's going on? I did see the transpo guy. It was Sean Duffy and Elon are hanging out. That's the duo I didn't know that I needed, but I like it. Josh Hawley. All right, we could do this. This is fair game.
Concerned by the department's decision on the merits in this case. I'm surprised and concerned by the department's decision on the merits in this case, and I've said as much to your soon-to-be boss, the Attorney General. I frankly don't understand it. And I'm sure this case isn't going away. I mean, the Department of Justice said that they did not think venue was appropriate. So let me just ask you, if the states refile in another venue, is the department going to oppose the states on the merits? I mean, is the department actually going to defend Joe Biden's pro-abortion regulations?
Senator, thank you for the question. I have had discussions with the Attorney General about this case in my role as counselor to her presently. Of course, it would be inappropriate for me to comment on those discussions. What I can tell you, Senator, is that if confirmed, we would look very specifically at every case to have been filed by the Biden Justice Department and ensure that those cases are appropriate, and then also ensure that we are taking the right track in those cases. And so I'm happy to talk with you and your colleagues about that case and any other case if confirmed.
As you, I hope, know, before President Biden, mifepristone, on the abortion drug, had long had a series of safety protocols attached to it ever since it was first offered in the United States over 20 years ago, including requirements that a physician be the one to dispense the drug, that a physician screen for ectopic pregnancies, that a physician be present to provide emergency care if necessary. President Biden removed all of these, and now the drug is available. You don't have to be a physician to prescribe it. It can be sent through the mail. Telehealth providers from foreign countries are now providing this drug. And it doesn't matter as a consequence what any state or voters in any state decide. The voters of my state, for example, any limits on the drug imposed by voters of a state, consistent with the Dobbs decision, is automatically overridden by what Joe Biden's FDA decided to do. So this is a matter of extreme importance. And
That was Hawley. He posted that himself. I'm just trying to put a little alert of it. Senator Judiciary, technical difficulties. It happens. Let's go back and.
I'm surprised.
Yeah, I was just looping back. So, let's see. Yep, 6:21. I knew it. I knew it when I saw it. It was live, and then it wasn't. And then, you know, certain committees. I don't know. I feel like certain people are more punctual than others. Start on time more often, right? That's not just me. It's just people in general. And Marsha Blackburn seems punctual. So, a little surprised. It's not her fault. It's the clerks. It's not the clerk's fault. It's the computers. It's not the computer's fault. It's Bill Gates. That's my daily conversation with myself. Just kidding. But a lot, yes, a lot can be traced back to decisions that man's made. So, waiting on Judiciary. We can go ahead and see what they were up to this morning while we're waiting on this one, I guess. That's not the biggest deal. Let's go check it out. Nominations. Yes. And we'll just skip to the good parts. Right? That's the good part. That's like, I know.
We won't bother to enforce the Reagan memo any longer.
Mr. Chairman, I see my time has expired. May I answer the question?
Please.
On to give advice for us.
So there are certain circumstances that would cause you to recommend to the administration that it defy a lower court order.
Well, Senator,
Thank you for your generosity with my time.
All right, here we go.
Thank you all.
Senator Kennedy.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Gentlemen, I don't want to spend a lot of time on this, but I also don't want to debate how many lawyers can dance on the head of a pen. I think you understand where a lot of these questions are coming from. Mr. Glazier, would you ever advise a client to ignore a federal district court opinion?
Thank you very much, Senator Kennedy. I would
You don't
advise
have to thank me. You can thank me by answering it.
I would advise a client on how best to comply with all lawful court orders.
Is that a
and-
yes or a no?
Yes, sir.
You would advise a client not to follow a federal district court opinion?
I would advise a client to follow court orders.
Would you ever advise a client not to follow a federal court of appeals decision?
I had the privilege of clerking on 2 federal courts of appeals.
Is that
and
a
both-
yes or no?
Yes. I would advise them to follow the orders of courts of appeals.
How about Supreme Court opinion?
Yes, Senator, I would advise them to follow the Supreme Court's orders, as President Trump has been very clear that those orders are to be followed.
Mr. Woodward, let me ask you the same question. Would you ever advise a client not to follow a district court opinion?
No, Senator.
Would you ever advise a client not to abide by an opinion of the Federal Court of Appeals?
No, Senator. Again, it's difficult to answer in the hypothetical, but
Would you ever advise a client not to follow an opinion by the United States Supreme Court?
No, Senator. As the President has been clear, he will follow all orders of the United States Supreme Court.
Tell me what I would need to do under the APA, the Administrative Procedures Act, if I want to change a current rule.
Well, Senator, as a senator, you would pass a law that
He
would
likes this
change-
question.
No. I don't want to play games here, Counsel. What would one have to do? What would the head of an agency have to do to overturn a current rule or regulation?
Well, Senator, I apologize. I know that there are many ways to do that, and
There's like
I don't want
5.
to play games out. I
No,
want to answer the
okay,
question.
that's fair.
There are many ways in which an agency
Proving
can
it's
overturn
arbitrary
a
and
rule.
Well, you have to
Capricious.
give notice,
Exceeds authority.
right?
As a general matter, yes, Senator.
And you have to invite input, right?
As a general matter, yes, Senator.
Okay. And sometimes you have to hold a hearing, right?
Sometimes you do, Senator.
Yeah. Are there any exceptions to that under the Administrative Procedures Act?
Under the Administrative Procedures Act, I'm not aware of any exceptions, but there are exceptions under the law.
Okay. Are you familiar with the good cause exception to the Administrative Procedures Act?
Senator, I am vaguely familiar with that exception.
Okay, do you know what it says?
No, Senator, I do not.
I understand. Here's what I'm driving at. Are you familiar with the Supreme Court's case called Loper-Bright?
Senator, I am vaguely familiar with the Supreme Court's decision in Loper-Bright.
The overturned Chevron doctrine, right?
The Chevron deference
Let's
doctrine, yes,
go.
Senator.
Okay. If there is a rule promulgated by a prior administration or even by a current administration that is in clear violation of the United States Supreme Court's pronouncement under Loper-Bright, ruling unconstitutional the Chevron doctrine, would it be possible? Strike that. Would it be prudent for the Justice Department to exercise authority under the good cause exception to the APA in the public interest and forego the rule, the notice and comment?
So, Senator, thank you. I think I now understand your question. And that is I was alluding to the non-APA process. I mean, if a rule has been promulgated that is plainly unconstitutional, it absolutely would be appropriate for the Department of Justice to look at that rule and make a determination.
My point is, you don't have to ignore the APA to do that, do you?
I would say it depends, but I take your point.
I mean, the APA provides an exception.
Yes, Senator.
It's section 553. It's right there, big as Dallas. Am I done?
No way.
I thought that was maybe a mouse or something.
Senator Cool. Thank you, Chairman Grassley, Ranking Member Durbin.
That didn't seem like 5
congratulations
minutes. It
to
seems.
your
I
families,
mean,
to you
that's
for your
just time
nominations.
flies
Thank
with
you for your
Senator
service.
Kennedy.
Mr. Squires
Let's go
will turn
find
to you
ourselves
for
some
introducing.
Josh Hawley.
which
On a case by
Civil Rights Division. A remedy.
Moody and Britt, come on.
this is what step which Jones you can
They look like they could be
I
sisters.
can
Let
That
me
scene
ask
in
Price.
Tombstone.
We could be sisters.
Maybe that person shows anti-Semitic views. And so your testimony is that they are being vetted individually.
Senator, again, I am not currently leading the agency. I do not have a view into how they are being vetted. My understanding is they're being vetted as refugees have been vetted in the past.
There are serious concerns about why this is happening. And for example,
Thank you,
the
Senator.
people who are Afghani are not getting this kind of highly preferential treatment. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator. Congratulations to the nominees. Thank you for being here. Mr. Woodward, let me start with you. You and I had a nice chat the other day. I appreciated the visit. When we were talking about the civil division, you referenced some tightening up that you believe needed to happen, and you brought up in that context the Mifepristone case. So I just want to drill down on this for a second. 2 weeks ago or so, the Department of Justice entered and filed a motion in the Mifepristone case in the Northern District of Texas. This is a Missouri case where the state of Missouri and some others are seeking to put back in place the safety protocols for the abortion drug that existed before Joe Biden removed them. The Department of Justice attorneys from the Civil Division filed a motion in that case seeking to have the case dismissed. Is it your understanding that that was a mistake? What's your view of this? I mean, you raised this case to me.
Senator, thank you for the question. As you can appreciate, it is long-standing policy of the Department of Justice not to comment on pending cases. Those briefs do speak for themselves. The reason I've raised that case with you is because we were having I thought, very helpful discussion about the fact that litigation should be holistic, and that as the Department of Justice continues to litigate on behalf of the president, there's an obligation, a duty even, for us to communicate with those with whom we're litigating against. We should be personal in our litigation. We should speak to those with whom we are litigating, and we should try to come to an agreement. We don't always have to resolve our disputes in court.
Which did not happen in this case. Is that the thrust of it?
That's correct, Senator.
In other words, the Department of Justice did not work with the state of Missouri. I have to tell you, though, I'm surprised and concerned by the department's decision on the merits in this case. And I've said as much to your soon-to-be boss, the Attorney General. I frankly don't understand it. And I'm sure this case isn't going away. I mean, the Department of Justice said that they did not think venue was appropriate. So let me just ask you, if the states refile in another venue, is the department going to oppose the states on the merits? I mean, is the department actually going to defend Joe Biden's pro-abortion regulations?
Senator, thank you for the question. I have had discussions with the Attorney General about this case in my role as counselor to her presently. Of course, it would be inappropriate for me to comment on those discussions. What I can tell you, Senator, is that if confirmed, we would look very specifically at every case to have been filed by the Biden Justice Department and ensure that those cases are appropriate, and then also ensure that we are taking the right track in those cases. And so I'm happy to talk with you and your colleagues about that case and any other case if confirmed.
As you, I hope, know, before President Biden, mifepristone, the abortion drug, had long had a series of safety protocols attached to it ever since it was first offered in the United States over 20 years ago, including requirements that a physician be the one to dispense the drug, that a physician screen for ectopic pregnancies, that a physician be present to provide emergency care if necessary. President Biden removed all of these, and now the drug is available. You don't have to be a physician to prescribe it. It can be sent through the mail. Telehealth providers from foreign countries are now providing this drug. And it doesn't matter as a consequence what any state or voters in any state decide, the voters of my state, for example, any limits on the drug imposed by voters of a state consistent with the Dobbs decision is automatically overridden by what Joe Biden's FDA decided to do. So this is a matter of extreme importance, and I just point out 70% of abortions now in the United States occur because of this drug, which can now be administered totally unsupervised. Let me just ask you, are you familiar with the Ethics and Public Policy Center's recent survey of mifepristone prescriptions? 865,000 mifepristone prescriptions over a 5-year period. Have you seen that study, Mr. Woodward?
Senator, I apologize, I have not seen that study.
Well, let me just bring you up to speed. What the study shows is that over 10% of women who are prescribed this drug, again, without physician help or aid, over 10% of these women experience a serious adverse health event. That means an infection, hemorrhaging, a life-threatening event, sepsis, that leads them to go to an emergency room. That is 22 times higher than what the FDA label currently admits is the risk of a serious adverse health event. This is the largest study of mifepristone done, I think, ever. 865,000 separate prescriptions were studied. So my point is this: the safety needs are extremely real. They are pressing. The rights of the states to protect their citizenry, I think, is extremely well-founded and well-developed, by the way. I mean, they are seeking the right relief in the right courts. And I just hope that the Department of Justice will do as you were saying a moment ago. I hope the Department of Justice will work with these states and will also vindicate the rights of voters to decide these issues and the rights of states to protect their citizens. I just can't imagine why the department would want to defend the abortion regulations of Joe Biden, who was the most rabidly pro-abortion president in American history. Very different than our current president, who has been the most pro-life president in American history.
Senator, I appreciate the question. As in the wake of Dobbs, I agree. The law is quite clear, And I'm going to sound like a broken record, but the President of the United States has said time and again he will follow the orders that come down from the Supreme Court.
Let me ask you here about one other religious liberty issue. Are you familiar with Mark Houck? Does that name ring a bell? Do you know about this case, Mr. Woodward?
I'm sorry, Senator, I'm not familiar.
Well, that's all right. I think we've got a picture of Mark. Mark Houck is a pro-life demonstrator, peaceful demonstrator, a Pennsylvania man. Here he is with his family, his kids. They're at Mass there. He's a faithful Catholic. Mark Houck took one of his boys, pictured here, to an abortion center to go and walk on the streets, pray, and offer any counsel to any women who might voluntarily want to receive it, pray with them, etc. For this, he was arrested by the United States Department of Justice. They sent a SWAT team to his home in the early hours of the morning in rural Pennsylvania. They detained his children. They used the full SWAT regalia, including semi-automatic weapons, rifles, and so forth, to take him into custody. He was taken into custody. He was charged like a criminal under the FACE Act. He was acquitted by the jury.
It looks like we're live here now.
Truly
on the,
remarkable. I want to emphasize the state of
correct
Pennsylvania
hearing.
had the
Maybe when I
opportunity
press
to charge
play
Houck.
here,
They
we're
didn't
gonna
do it
find
'cause they
out
didn't think
together,
liberals in
as I
Pennsylvania
said.
didn't charge him because they knew there wasn't a case. The Biden DOJ
breaching
charged
that
him
trust,
anyway.
using my voice in songs that belittle or justify abuse. One of the things I'm most proud of in my career is I've tried to conduct myself with integrity and authenticity. And the thought that my voice could be deep-faked or my likeness could be deep-faked to go against everything that I've built, to go against my character, is just terrifying. And I'm pleading with you to give me the tools to stop that kind of betrayal. Setting America on the right course to develop the world's best AI while preserving the sacred qualities that make our country so special: authenticity, integrity, humanity, and our endlessly inspiring spirit. That's what the No Fakes Act will help to accomplish. I urge you to pass the bill now. Thank you.
We thank you, Mr. Glazier. You're recognized for 5 minutes.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me. I'm honored to testify today alongside the groundbreaking artist Martina McBride, who just spoke so eloquently about the value of someone's voice, the value of their image, and the threats posed by abuses of deepfake technology. I'd also like to recognize the almost 400 artists and performers and actors who have just signed a statement in support of the No Fakes Act with some very simple words. It's your voice, your face, your image, your identity. Protect your individuality. That's why we're here. That's what this is all about. Artists' voices and likenesses are fundamental to their work, credibility, expression, careers. In many ways, these deeply personal, highly valuable attributes are the foundations of the entire music ecosystem. And unauthorized exploitation of them using deepfakes does cause devastating harm. We have to prevent that harm. So my deepest thanks, and the thanks of a very grateful music community, go out to all of you, to Chairman Blackburn, to Ranking Member Klobuchar, to Senator Coons, and to all of the senators, Senator Tillis, Hagerty, Durbin, Cassidy, Schiff, and I hope many more on this committee and throughout the Senate for introducing and supporting the No Fakes Act. You did it after months, actually years of work with each other, stakeholders, your counterparts in the House. You've been able to build bipartisan, bicameral, broad-based consensus around legislation that will protect not just artists, but all victims of deepfake abuses, including child exploitation and voice clone scams, which we'll hear about from the other witnesses today. You've shaped a common sense bill that has won the support of AI companies like Google, who's here today, OpenAI, IBM, as well as broadcasters, motion picture studios, child protection groups, free market groups, labor unions, and virtually the entire creative community. That's hard to do. The No Fakes Act provides balanced yet effective protections for all Americans while supporting free speech, reducing litigation, and promoting the development of AI technology. It empowers individuals to have unlawful deepfakes removed from UGC platforms as soon as it can be done without requiring anyone to hire lawyers or go to court in those situations. It contains clear exemptions for uses typically protected by the First Amendment, such as parody, news reporting, critical commentary. And it encourages AI development and innovation, targeting only malicious applications and setting the stage for the legitimate licensing of rights with real and meaningful consent. No Fakes is the perfect next step to build on after the Take It Down Act. It provides a civil remedy to victims of invasive harm that go beyond the criminal posting of intimate images addressed by that legislation, and protects artists like Martina from non-consensual deepfakes and voice clones that breach the trust she's built with millions of fans. American music is the most valuable music in the world. We lead in investment, exports, and market power. Music drives the success of other important American industries, including the technology industry, through thriving partnerships. If we signal to the rest of the world that it's acceptable to steal Americans' voices and likenesses, we have the most to lose. Our voices and our music are the most popular and will be taken the most, destabilizing the music economy, our intellectual property system, our national identity, and the very humanity of the individuals who bless us with their genius. The No Fakes Act is a critical step in setting America up as an example and to continue and extend its global leadership in innovation and creativity. It shows that we can boost AI development while preserving every individual's autonomy, all individual liberties, and protect our constitutional property rights at the same time. We are really proud to support this legislation, and we vow to help you pass it into law this year. Thank you again.
We thank you. Ms. Price, you're recognized for 5 minutes.
Chair Blackburn, Ranking Member Klobuchar, thank you for holding this hearing and addressing this truly urgent matter. My name is Christen Price, Senior Legal Counsel at the National Center on Sexual Exploitation, NCOSE, a nonpartisan nonprofit dedicated to eradicating all forms of sexual exploitation by exposing the links between them. Our law center represents survivors in lawsuits against those who perpetrate, enable, and profit from sex trafficking, including pornography companies. Contemporary pornography depicts and normalizes violence, including asphyxiation, electrocution, and rape. This is pervasive. The top 4 sites, Pornhub, Xvideos, Xhamster, and XNXX, had nearly 60 billion total visits in 2024. One woman's husband sexually assaulted her while she was sleeping and put the video on Xvideos, which was tagged sleeping pills. Pornhub hosts child sexual abuse material and sex trafficking content, with their employees admitting that traffickers use their sites with impunity. Forged or deepfake pornography uses AI that is trained on this kind of abusive content, merging it with the faces of other women and girls. A 2023 report found that deepfake pornography increased by 464% between 2022 and 2023. The top 10 deepfake pornography sites had 300 million video views in 2023. 98% of all deepfake videos are pornography related, and 99% of those who are targeted are women. The perpetrators are disproportionately male. One survey found that 74% of deepfake pornography users don't feel guilty about it. A high schooler discovered a boy she'd never met, took a photo off of her Instagram, created an AI deepfake, and circulated it through Snapchat. 2 years later, she still hasn't been able to remove all the images. A woman whose close family friend made deepfake pornography of her said, "My only crime was existing online and sharing photos on platforms like Instagram. The person who did this was not a stranger. I was not hacked, and my social media has never been public." These are serious human rights abuses, violating the person whose face is depicted and the person whose body is shown. Survivors report fear, isolation, shame, powerlessness, suicidal thoughts, doxing, harassment from sex buyers, and difficulty attending school, maintaining jobs, and participating in public life. This is a form of sexual exploitation from which it is impossible to fully exit. There is a very old idea that to protect more privileged women from male violence, society needs an underclass of women that men can violate with impunity. This was always a morally inexcusable premise, and the rise of forged pornography shows that it is also a lie. Deepfake technology allows any man to turn any woman into his pornography. These are impossible conditions for equality. As Andrea Dworkin stated in 1986, the civil impact of pornography on women is staggering. It keeps us socially silent, socially compliant. It keeps us afraid in neighborhoods, and it creates a vast hopelessness for women, a vast despair. One lives inside a nightmare of sexual abuse that is both actual and potential, and you have the great joy of knowing that your nightmare is someone else's freedom and someone else's fun. The harms are severe and irreversible, so deterrence is essential. This is why NCOSE supported the bipartisan effort to pass the Take It Down Act, which the president signed into law on Monday, and requires online platforms to remove non-consensual content within 48 hours of being notified. NCOSE strongly supports 3 additional bills that complement Take It Down: the No Fakes Act, the Kids Online Safety Act, and the Defiance Act. These bills help protect individuals from the harmful effects of image-based sexual abuse and increase pressure on tech companies to manage websites more responsibly. Finally, NCOSE is concerned about the recent AI state moratorium language included in the House Budget Reconciliation Bill, as it creates a disincentive for AI companies to put safety first. Technological progress should not come at the expense of human dignity. It is our collective responsibility to protect the voice, face, and likeness of every person from unauthorized use. Thank you.
We thank you, and I will note for the record that we're submitting your full testimony into the record with all of your footnotes. I really appreciate that. Thank you so much. Mr. Brookman, you're recognized for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Chairwoman Blackburn, Ranking Member Klobuchar. Thank you very much for the opportunity to get to testify here today. I'm here on behalf of Consumer Reports, where I head up our work on tech policy advocacy. We're the world's largest independent testing organization. We use our ratings, our journalism, our surveys, our advocacy
He looks like he's
to try to
from
create
Consumer
a more
Reports.
fair, healthier, and safer world. I'm gratified the committee is focusing on the problems created by audio and video deepfakes, which for better or worse are getting more realistic and convincing every day. They're used in romance scams and grandparent scams, where a relative gets a frantic call from a distressed family member who's in immediate need of cash. As the chairwoman noted, they're used in fake testimonial videos from celebrities hawking everything from meme coins to cookware. I believe Elon Musk is one of the most frequently impersonated celebrities online. As Ms. Price testified eloquently, obviously one of the most prevalent uses is for the creation of non-consensual intimate images and videos, and they're increasingly used to propagate misinformation, certainly in the political realm, but also in the more petty personal realm. There's a story in Maryland recently about an aggrieved teacher who created deepfake audio of his boss saying racist and anti-Semitic slurs. As this last example shows, realistic cloning tools are easily available to the public and very cheap and easy to use. Earlier this year, Consumer Reports conducted a study of 6 voice cloning tools that are easy to find online to see how easy it would be to create fake audio based on a public recording, like a YouTube clip. Our study found that 4 of the 6 companies we looked at didn't employ any technical mechanism or reasonable technical mechanisms to reasonably ensure they had the consent of the person whose voice was being cloned. Instead, the customer just had to click, like, yes, I have the person's consent. 2 require the person to read a script so to help indicate the person was on board with having their voice cloned. 4 of the companies also did not collect much identifying information from customers, just a name or an email address to start creating deepfake voice clones. Given how likely abuse of these services is, I don't think they were doing enough. And a lot of our members agree. We recently got 55,000 signatures on a recent petition asking the Federal Trade Commission and state attorneys general to investigate whether these services were in violation of existing consumer protection laws. And that brings me to solutions. So one thing, we need strong consumer protection agencies who have the resources to crack down on abuse of emerging technologies. Last year, the FTC brought a handful of AI cases as part of Operation AI Comply, but they don't have the capacity right now to confront the massive wave of scams and abuses online. Tools and responsibilities. I think some of these AI-powered tools are designed such that they're almost always going to be used for illegitimate purposes, whether it's deepfake pornographic image generators or voice impersonation. Developers of these tools need to have heightened obligations to try to forestall harmful uses. If they can't do that, then maybe they should not be freely available to the public. Platforms, too, need to be doing more to proactively get harmful material off their platforms. It's a very difficult job. It takes resources, but it absolutely needs to be done. Transparency. People deserve to know whether the content they're seeing online is real or fake. I know there have been a number of bills introduced in this Congress to try to address that. Also, there's a law recently passed in California to start to put transparency obligations on entities that make deepfake content. Stronger privacy and security laws. As this committee knows very well, the United States generally has fairly weak legal protections. As the ranking member noted, the ready availability of information about us online makes it easier for scammers to target us with scams. We've seen a ton of progress at the state level on privacy and security laws, but they're not strong enough. Whistleblower protections and incentives. In many cases, we only find out about abuses inside these tech companies when someone comes forward with their story. I was glad to see bipartisan legislation introduced on this issue, protecting AI whistleblowers in the last week. Education, I don't want to put all the burden on consumers, but the reality is this is the world we live in. We need to teach people to look out for these sorts of scams. We're part of a campaign called Pause, Take 9, which tries to train people that if they get an urgent call to action, they should pause, take 9 seconds, think about if this is real or not. And finally, I want to echo the words of Ms. Price about a lot of discussion about a moratorium on state laws policing bad uses of AI. I want to stress that this is the wrong idea. AI has tremendous, amazing potential, but as this hearing shows, it has some real potential harms as well. The states have been leaders in trying to address these harms, whether it's privacy, co-opting performers' identities, regulating self-driving cars, rooting out hidden biases, other deepfakes. AI is an incredibly powerful technology, but that does not mean it should be completely unregulated. Thank you very much, and I look forward to answering your questions.
And Ms. Carlos, you're recognized for 5 minutes.
Chairwoman Blackburn, Ranking Member Klobuchar, and members of the subcommittee, thank you for the opportunity to speak with you today on the important topic of the No Fakes Act and AI-generated digital replicas. My name is Suzana Carlos, and I serve as the head of music policy for YouTube. Just last month, YouTube marked the 20th anniversary of the first video ever uploaded to our platform. It's difficult to fathom how much the world and YouTube have changed in those 2 short decades. Today, we have over 2 billion active monthly members on our platform across more than 100 countries, with 500 hours of content uploaded every minute. We are proud that YouTube has transformed culture through video and built a thriving creator economy here in the United States and around the world. Our unique and industry-leading revenue-sharing model empowers our creators to take 55% of the revenue earned against ads on their content. And as a result, YouTube's creative economy has contributed more than $55 billion to the United States gross domestic product and supported more than 490,000 full-time American jobs in the last year alone. In the 3 years prior to January 2024, YouTube paid more than $70 billion to creators, artists, and media companies. At YouTube Music, we built one of the world's deepest catalogs. Over 100 million official tracks, plus remixes, live performances, covers, and hard-to-find music you simply can't find anywhere else. We've now reached over 125 million paid YouTube and music and premium subscribers. And YouTube continues to be at the forefront of handling rights management at scale, protecting the intellectual property of creators and our content partners, ensuring that they can monetize their content and keeping YouTube free for viewers around the world. In 2007, YouTube launched Content ID, a first-of-its-kind copyright management system that helps rights holders effectively manage their works. Rights holders or their agents provide YouTube with reference files for their works they own, along with metadata such as title and detailed ownership rights. And based on these references, YouTube creates digital fingerprints for those works in question and scans the platform to determine when content in an uploaded video matches the reference content. Rights holders can instruct the system to block, monetize, or track the reference content. And over 99% of the copyright issues on YouTube are handled through Content ID. It has also proven to be an effective revenue generation tool for rights holders, as over 90% of Content ID claims are monetized. And as we navigate the evolving world of AI, We understand the importance of collaborating with partners to tackle emerging challenges proactively. We firmly believe that AI can and will supercharge human creativity, not replace it. Indeed, AI has the potential to amplify and augment human creativity, unlocking new opportunities for artists, creators, journalists, musicians, and consumers to engage creatively with new tools and play an active role in innovation. We are already seeing creators exploring new areas, including the creation of new types of music, books, photography, clothing, pottery, games, and other art inspired in collaboration with AI models. And as this technology evolves, we must collectively ensure that it is used responsibly, including when it comes to protecting our creators and viewers. Platforms have a responsibility to address the challenges posed by AI-generated content, and Google and YouTube stand ready to apply our expertise to help tackle them on our services and across the digital ecosystem. We know that a practical regulatory framework addressing digital replicas is critical, and that is why we are especially grateful to Chairwoman Blackburn, Senator Coons, Ranking Member Klobuchar, and all the bill sponsors for the smart and thoughtful approach adopted in developing the No Fakes Act of 2025. We deeply appreciate their willingness to bring a variety of stakeholders together to forge a consensus on this important topic. YouTube and Google are proud to support this legislation, which tackles the problems of harm associated with unauthorized digital replicas and provides a clear legal framework to address these challenges and protect individuals' rights. The No Fakes Act appropriately balances innovation, creative expression, and individuals' rights while offering a broadly workable, tech-neutral, and comprehensive legal solution. By supplanting the need for a patchwork of inconsistent legal frameworks, the No Fakes Act would streamline global operations for platforms like ours and empower artists and rights holders to better manage their likeness online. We look forward to seeing the legislation passed by Congress and enacted into law. We have similarly proudly supported the Take It Down Act because it's critical to prevent bad actors from producing and disseminating non-consensual explicit images. We would like to thank Ranking Member Klobuchar along with Senator Cruz for their leadership on the legislation. This is an area we continue to invest in at Google, building our long-standing policies and protections to ultimately keep people safe online. Thank you again for inviting me to participate in today's hearing. I look forward to your questions.
And we thank you all for sticking to the 5-minute clock. I didn't have to gavel down a person. These are great content creators, Amy. So there we go. I'm going to recognize myself for 5 minutes for questions. And as Senator Coons said earlier, there are going to be members coming and going because we do have a variety of hearings that are going on. Ms. McBride, I want to come to you first. I think that your perspective is such an important perspective as we talk about this and talk on the direct impact to someone who is creating content. And I appreciated so much that in your testimony, you talked about how your voice and likeness, along with so many other creators, that is at risk, and therefore your livelihood is at risk. So talk a little bit about how harmful deepfakes are in the long term, and why it is important to get legislation like this to the president's desk, and then talk about fellow artists that you have spoken with and their concerns on the issue.
Well, as you said, it does affect livelihood for art musicians, backup singers, voiceover actors, authors, like so many people in the arts. For me, being established and having done this for over 30 years, that's not necessarily my first concern. I have the luxury of that not being my first concern, but it is a concern for younger artists that are coming up. So, as I said in my testimony, the thing that I'm most concerned with personally is how we work so hard to present ourselves with integrity and a certain character. And the fact that, long term, that could be distorted or manipulated to be the opposite of what I stand for and what I believe. Or to be used to cause harm to someone through endorsing a harmful product or or, you know, far into the future after I'm gone, somebody creating a piece of music or me saying something that I never did. And it just kind of like disintegrating what I've worked so hard to establish, which is trust with my fans, with people who, you know, when I say something, they believe it. I think for younger artists, to your point of livelihood, to be new and having to set up what you stand for and who you are as a person, as an artist, what you endorse, what you believe in, and establishing a trust with your fans. And then on top of it, having to navigate these waters of someone coming in and distorting all of that is devastating. Like, I don't know how, I can't stress enough how it can impact the careers of up-and-coming artists, and even just in their ability to, you know, to speak their truth or just to live in fear of being a victim of these deepfakes.
Yeah. Mr. Glazier, I want to come to you on something you mentioned about the critical balance of protecting the artist's voices and likenesses, and then also reducing litigation. And that is why we need to have this framework. And I think helping artists stay out of court. I mean, they're at a point where they may have to spend much of what they've earned in order to protect themselves and to protect their brand, if you will. If you'll elaborate on that.
Sure, I'm happy to. The bill has to be effective and practical at the same time, both for the victim and for the platform who is going to limit the damage to the victim. It has to work on both ends, and that's why I think the approach that was taken both in the Take It Down Act and in this act are so important, especially in areas where the platform has less knowledge and less control because end users are posting on the platform, and those can go viral very, very quickly. The ability for the platform to take it down as soon as, you know, technically and practically feasible so that they stop the damage, and to keep it down so that the artist or any other victim doesn't have to spend their lives monitoring a platform and continually sending more notices and more notices as end users keep putting up the same material over and over and over again. We now have tools that will allow the removal off of the platform, and once the removal is done, the damage can be limited, there is no liability for the platform, and the artist doesn't have to spend their time just litigating. Where there is more knowledge and control, right, where the platform has an employee upload it, for example, then there should be responsibility on the platform, and those are cases where you might need to go to court because the platform could have prevented it and they didn't prevent it. So I think the bill is incredibly balanced and really innovative in its approach to protecting free speech, reducing litigation, but also effectively protecting the right that's necessary.
All right, thank you very much. I guess I'll start with Mr. Brookman, the non-Grammy winner. I want to talk to you just a little bit about this consumer angle here, which I think is interesting to people. And I think at its core, all of us involved in this legislation have made it really clear that it's not just people who are well-known that will be hurt by this eventually, and that getting this bill passed as soon as possible is just as important for everyone. But I do so appreciate Ms. McBride's being willing to come forward, because those stories and the stories that we've heard from, like I mentioned, Jamie Lee Curtis, or the stories that we've heard from many celebrities are very important to getting this done. So you just did a report, AI-generated voice cloning scams, including that AI voice cloning applications, in the words of the report, presents a clear opportunity for scammers. And we need to make sure our consumer protection enforcers are prepared to respond to the growing threat of these scams. I had this happen to my state director's husband, their kid is in the Marines, and they got a call. They figured out that it wasn't really him asking for stuff and money. They knew he couldn't call from where he was deployed to. this is just going to be happening all over the place, and the next call will be to a grandma who thinks it real and she sends her life savings in. So I have called on the FTC and the FCC to step up their efforts to prevent these voice cloning scams. What are some of the tools that agencies need to crack down on these scams, even outside of this bill?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think the first thing the Federal Trade Commission probably needs is more resources. They only have like 1,200 people right now for the entire economy. That's down from like 100 just in the past couple of months.
Way down from even during like the Nixon year.
Yeah, like 1,700 it used to be, and the economy's grown like 3 or 4 times. Chairman Ferguson has said more cuts are coming, which I think is the wrong direction. I worked at the Federal Trade Commission for a couple of years. Like, we could not do like a fraction of all the things that we wanted to do to protect consumers. So more people, more capacity, more technologists. Like, there's just not enough technology capacity in government. I was in the Office of Technology Research and Investigation there. That was like 5 people. That's just not enough, obviously, with all these very sophisticated, I mean, just deepfakes alone, let alone the rest of the tech economy. The ability to get penalties and even injunctive relief, right? If someone gets caught stealing something, the FTC often doesn't have the ability to make them give the money back. Yeah. I know this committee has tried to restore that authority, but that would be important. And also, like, again, maybe just FTC could have rulemaking authority, but also this, I would like to see Congress consider legislative authority to address tools. Like, again, if you are offering a tool that can be used only for harm, voice impersonation, deepfake pornographic images, maybe there should be responsibilities to make sure it's not being used for harm.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Carlos, can you talk about what YouTube is doing to ensure it's not facilitating these scams?
Sure, and thank you for the question, Senator.
And thanks for your support for the bill.
Of course. So just to primarily consider, we obviously see great and tremendous opportunity coming from AI, but we also acknowledge that there are risks. And it is our utmost responsibility to ensure that it is deployed responsibly. So we've taken a number of efforts to protect against unharmful content on our platform. Primarily, we have updated our privacy policies last year to ensure that all individuals can now submit a notice to YouTube when their unauthorized voice or likeness has been used on our platform. And once reviewed, if it is applicable and we've confirmed that that content should be removed, we will take it down. We've additionally implemented watermarks on our AI products. We originally began with both image and watermarks using our SynthID technology, and we've recently expanded it to also be applied to text generated from our Gemini app and web experience, and most recently as part of our VO video tool. Okay. We've also taken the additional step to become a member of C2PA, the Coalition for Content Provenance and Authenticity, and there we're serving as a steering member to work with the organization to create indicators and markings that will allow the content provenance that was created off platforms to additionally be recognized, and we're deploying those technologies across our platform.
Okay, thank you. We've mentioned the Take It Down Act, and thank you for the support for that. Mr. Glazier, you talked about how this is the first federal law related to generative AI, and that it's a good first step. And could you talk about how, if we don't move on from there and we just stop and don't do anything for years, which seems to be what's been going on, what's going to happen here and why it's so important to do this?
I think there's a very small window and an unusual window for Congress to get ahead of what is happening before it becomes irreparable. The Take It Down Act was an incredible model. It was done for criminal activity, cabined in.
I know.
Right. You wrote it. But it was a great model, but it only goes so far. But we need to use that model now, and we need to expand it carefully in a balanced way to lots of other situations, which is exactly what the No Fakes Act does.
Right.
And I think, we have a very limited amount of time in order to allow people and platforms to act before this gets to a point where it's so far out of the barn that instead of encouraging responsible AI development, instead we allow investment and capital to go into AI development that hurts
stealing
us.
Things. Yes.
So let's encourage investment the right way to boost great AI development and be first. Let's not be the folks that encourage investment in AI technologies that really harm us.
Mm-hmm. And Ms. Price, you've expressed concerns about this 10-year moratorium on state rules. I'm very concerned, having spent years trying to pass some of these things, and I think that one of the ways we pass things quickly, like Mr. Glazier was talking about, is if people actually see a reason that they don't want a patchwork, they want to get it done. But if you just put a moratorium and you look at like the Elvis law coming out of Tennessee, Ms. McBride, and some of the other things that would stop all of that, could you, my last question here before we go to another round, could you talk about why you're concerned about what is right in front of us now, which is this 10-year moratorium?
Yes, thank you for the question, Senator. We're concerned about the moratorium because it's basically signaling to the AI companies that they can kind of do whatever they want in the meantime, and it inhibits states' ability to adapt their laws to this form of technology that's changing very quickly and then has this potential to cause great harm.
Thank you.
And I know Senator Coons is on his way and Senator Hawley is coming back, but Ms. Price, staying with you, you talked about the Take It Down Act and the importance there. But touch on the gap that No Fakes fills for a child who may have something posted, but yet it doesn't fit under Take It Down, and how this would open up an avenue of recourse for them.
Yes, thank you, Senator. So under the No Fakes Act, because there is a private right of action, there would be another way essentially for a victim to seek accountability from a perpetrator or platform, which is really important because the layers of accountability are what really deter bad actors from engaging in harm. So having the criminal, but then also having the ability to do the private right of action, the civil action, is important.
And speaking to the states and their actions, I do want to mention that Tennessee passed the Elvis Act, which is like our first generation of the No Fakes Act, and we certainly know that in Tennessee we need those protections, and until we pass something that is federally preemptive, we can't call for a moratorium on those things. So,
excellent statement.
Of course. Of course. Ms. Carlos, I want to talk with you for just a minute, and we're grateful for the support that you all have talked about, and there's a provision in the bill that I know is important to your platform and many others, and that's the notification piece. And giving individuals harm, you've talked about artists being able to contact you, but for you all to be able to notify and letting people know about this, and then asking for that content to come down and then taking that action. As we have worked on the Kids Online Safety Act, one of the complaints that had come to Senator Blumenthal and I from individuals that tried to get things off was they could not get a response. So this is something that notification is an imperative. So talk a little bit about how you're approaching notification.
Thank you. Thank you for the question. Yeah, so in looking at the framework of No Fakes, again, we began with a voluntary framework on YouTube, which allows individuals to notify us when digital replica content of them is online. And this is smartly mirrored in the No Fakes Act. It empowers a user to identify content and flag it to us when they believe it should be removed for an unauthorized use of their voice or likeness. And as you mentioned, that notification is critical because it signals to us when the difference between content that is authorized and harmful fakes. And it's with that notice that we are able to review content and make an informed decision as to whether or not it should be removed.
And then what is your length of time for getting it down upon receiving notification? What is your process going to be on implementation?
Sure. So as a similar framework we envision as under the DMCA, where a web form would be easily available for any user, quickly filled out and then submitted to our trust and safety team, we make every effort to review every notice on a case-by-case basis and remove it as soon as possible.
So are you talking hours, days? What is your framework?
I don't have the exact number on the top of my head, but I do know that we try to process every notification as quickly as possible.
Thank you. If you will check on that.
Sure.
And then get that information back to us, I think we would like to know that, because the fact that this has taken such lengths of time for people to have any kind of response has been very difficult for consumers, and they feel like they're talking to the outer space and nobody is listening and nobody's responding.
Thank you for flagging the concern. I'd be happy to follow up with you in the committee.
I appreciate that. Senator Coons, you're recognized for 5 minutes.
Thank you so much, Madam Chair. I'd like to first thank Ms. McBride for being here to testify in support of No Fakes. Could you speak to why this bill is so important, both to protect artists like you and to protect your fans?
Thank you. I think that it's important because as artists, we hopefully want to speak the truth. We want to build a relationship with our fans in which they trust us. So when they believe what we say. So when you have something like a deep fake that either sells a product or says a statement, it can be so harmful to that trust. I mean, I just realized sitting here that I bought a product, a collagen supplement off of Instagram the other day because it had Leanne Rimes and a couple of other people, and I'm sitting here thinking, oh my goodness, I don't even know if that was really them, right? Mm-hmm. So it's damaging to the artist and to the fan. We had a situation personally where one of my fans believed they were talking to me, ended up selling their house and funneling the money to someone who they thought was me. That is so devastating to me, to realize that somebody who trusts me could be duped like that, and then also I think that eventually somebody who is duped by a deep fake is going to be angry enough to have retribution, which we're on stages in front of thousands of people, we're in public places, so it's a danger to the artist as well.
Mr. Glazier, to follow up on Ms. McBride's testimony, what do you think are the consequences for the music industry if we don't get No Fakes over the finish line? What will the consequences be for music fans and for the industry?
The entire music ecosystem is dependent on the authentic voice and the authentic image of the artist, right? That is what the music industry is. If you allow deepfakes to perpetuate, you're taking the soul out of the art. And when you do that, you're taking the humanity of someone to protect the use of themselves. If there's anything that we have a right in and should be able to control, it's the gifts that God gave us, the voices that we have, the image that we have. And for that to be taken from you is devastating both for the individual and obviously for the industry itself, which is built on these very voices.
Ms. Carlos, if I might, I just want to thank you for YouTube's partnership in getting to the place where you support No Fakes. Other tech companies haven't come forward. I'd be interested in what you might say or encourage me to say to the Metas or TikToks of the world about why they should support this bill, even though it imposes new obligations on them. And some have argued that No Fakes might chill legitimate speech by incentivizing platforms to remove content out of fear of being sued. How does YouTube think about balancing its obligations under this bill with its First Amendment obligations to users?
Thank you for the question, Senator. As we mentioned, YouTube largely supports this bill because we see the incredible opportunity of AI, but we also recognize those harms, and we believe that AI needs to be deployed responsibly. I believe Mr. Glazier mentioned during his opening statement that the No Fakes Act does carry First Amendment exemptions, parody, satire, newsworthiness. I'm comfortable endorsing this bill. We are, at the end of the day, an open platform, and we believe that a variety of viewpoints can succeed on YouTube. So those would be some of the things that I would share with you to share with those other companies, but I cannot speak directly on behalf of why they may or may not choose to endorse the bill.
Understood. Thank you all, and thank you all for your testimony today. Thank you.
Senator Hawley, you're recognized for 5 minutes.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. Thanks to all of the witnesses for being here. Ms. Carlos, if I could just start with you. You're here on behalf of YouTube, is that right?
That is correct.
Can you tell me, why is it that YouTube has monetized videos that teach people how to generate pornographic deepfakes of women? Why does that happen on your platform?
Thank you for the question. Protecting our users is one of our top priorities. My general expertise is in music policy, so I'm not in the best position to answer that question, but I'm happy to follow up with you.
But do you know how many such videos there are out there that are these are monetized videos now on YouTube?
I'm not aware of that number. I can't say that our community policies do not allow that type of content on our platform.
Well, Forbes magazine just reported that YouTube's in fact promoted over 100 YouTube videos with millions of views that showcase AI deepfake porn and include tutorials on how to make deepfake porn, particularly porn that targets young women. Do you have any idea how much money YouTube has made off of this monetization?
Thank you for bringing this to my attention. I do not have detail on this specific news article. I'm happy to follow up with you in the committee.
So you don't have any idea of how many ad dollars YouTube has made off of this?
I do not.
Are you aware that one of these websites that was promoted by YouTube in these videos was later cited in a criminal prosecution for AI sexual abuse material, generating, let me be more specific, generating AI sexual abuse material involving children?
Thank you again for the question, Senator. As we mentioned earlier, YouTube has endorsed the Take It Down Act, and we take these issues very seriously. Again, I'll notify that I represent music policy and do not have that information to give you a fulsome response during today's hearing.
Let me ask you this then. If a teenage girl's face ends up in an AI porn video on your platform, what does YouTube do about it? What's her recourse right now? What can she do to get some recompense, get some restitution?
After over a year ago, we updated our privacy policy so that anybody who believes that their voice or likeness is being used without their authorization on our platform can submit a request for removal.
A request for removal. Is there some policy in getting reimbursement for any profits the company may have made, again, if these videos are monetized? I mean, does the victim get a share of anything?
I'm not aware of those policies. I would have to follow up with you, Senator.
Why is it that the enforcement of YouTube's own policy here seems to only happen after videos go viral? Is there a reason for that?
I do not have the answer to that question to you.
Do you know how many AI-generated deepfake videos or deepfake content is removed before a victim complains? Does the victim have to complain before YouTube does anything?
Again, my specialty is in music policy. I do understand that we use technology such as AI to search for that content, and when it is in violation of our policies, we will remove it.
Let me ask you about this. YouTube training data. Has YouTube provided data for use in Google's Gemini or other AI training programs?
YouTube does provide data in Google training data in accordance with our agreements.
So if an artist uploads music to YouTube, does the company use that music to train AI models?
As I mentioned, we do share data in accordance with our agreements. I can't speak to the specifics of any individual agreement.
Well, so how are people like Ms. McBride protected? I mean, so if you're an artist and you put any content on YouTube, does that mean that it's just free range? I mean, you can do whatever you want with it?
Again, it goes down to the terms of our agreement. I will say that we have forged deep partnerships with the music industry. We came out of the gate with forming AI music principles with the music industry and are continuing to experiment with them to see how AI can best benefit their creative process.
So are there privacy protections? You're telling me YouTube has in place privacy protections for artists?
They apply to all individuals on our platform.
Oh, so is this, you have to, this is the click wrap scenario? This is in order to watch cute dog videos or whatever, you've got to click the I consent, and that wraps in, you basically give consent for your stuff to be used?
There are all different types of various agreements, but our terms of service are included in that batch of agreements.
So where are, I guess my question is, where are users told about their privacy protections if they have any, and where do they explicitly consent?
They agree to our terms of service, and we also have our privacy policy available on the web.
Okay, so that's the click wrap. So in other words, if you come onto YouTube, you want to use it, you click, you got to click through. So you click it, and there you basically agreed to allow YouTube to give your content to AI and allow them to train it without any further consent. Is that basically it?
Again, we implement our policies, and in terms of our agreement are what govern what goes into our training.
Well, I'm asking you the content of that agreement. So in other words, if I'm an artist and I upload something to YouTube, and yeah, sure, I've clicked the button that says, yeah, I want to be able to use YouTube, are you telling me that I don't have any further recourse? If YouTube then goes and gives the information to AI models and systems, there's nothing further I can do? Or am I missing something?
It is. If it is in accordance with our agreements, we will share that data.
Yeah, that seems like a big problem to me. That seems like a huge, huge problem to me. And the fact that YouTube is monetizing these kind of videos seems like a huge, huge problem to me. I'm glad you're here today. I wish there were more tech companies here today. But we've got to do more. I mean, YouTube, I'm sure, is making billions of dollars off of this. The people who are losing are the artists and the creators and the teenagers whose lives are upended. We've got to give individuals powerful, enforceable rights in their images, in their property, in their lives back again, or this is just never going to stop. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, and that is the reason we have the No Fakes bill, and we are trying to push it across the finish line. I would like to offer a second round. Senator Klobuchar, do you have additional questions?
Very, very short. I know that Senator Coons has asked some of my questions about just people's personal experience with this. I guess I'd ask you, Mr. Glazier, I'm not sure you were asked about this. Do you agree that using copyrighted materials to create copycat content undermines the value of the music created by artists and could chill creation of new art?
Absolutely. If you are able to copy copyrighted material for any purpose without consent, you're basically allowing the person who's copying to make the money and to do with it what they want, but not the creator who's supposed to actually control it and who made it to be compensated for it and to control its exploitation. It's the very opposite of what the Constitution calls for in creating intellectual property.
Very good. One last question. Just last one. On the consumer education issue that was raised, thank you. I'm sure you all care about it, but Mr. Brookman, so while we should not place the burden solely on consumers to protect themselves from AI scams, I don't think that's going to work very well. What steps should Congress take to help educate consumers when it comes to AI literacy and the like? I think it's something we could have some agreement on. So.
Yeah, I mean, I think a public spending the money for a public awareness campaign is I think a really good idea. I think people are hear stories of friends who it's happened to, but a lot of people just have no idea that the things they see online, the things they see on Facebook are just not real. So in addition to laws,
you know, one that says I'm the 4th richest woman in the world now.
Congratulations.
Yeah, that just this week. I'm sorry, I don't want to exaggerate. America. And then people try to defend me by sending out the list of the top 10 richest with like Oprah, and I always think it's kind of sad that I'm nowhere near it. But yes, that's the latest thing that's out there. Go on.
Yeah, training people to be aware of it, to think about it, just to watch out for social engineering attacks, false calls for urgency. The deepfake voice right now is usually good for a little while, but it's getting better, right? And it's going to continue to get better. So one idea is having a family safe word, right? Like a word that only you and your family know that the scammer can't get. But like they have access to a lot of personal data about us, so we are all vulnerable. The numbers are going up dramatically. So just like teaching people, like I said, it's a shame we have to teach people to do this, but it is the world we live in.
Okay, thank you, Senator Blackburn.
Ms. Price, I was glad to see President Trump sign the Take It Down Act earlier this week. Why is no fake still necessary if Take It Down is on the books?
Thank you, Senator. No fakes is still necessary because it provides a way for victims to bring a civil lawsuit on their own behalf. And so there's an importance to having, yes, on the one hand, the criminal piece, the criminal law accountability, and the required takedown under the FTC, but then, of course, the victims being able to bring their own lawsuit if they wish to do that. It's more effective for deterrence to have multiple things.
Ms. Carlos, why did YouTube come to the table? You could have just made it a whole lot harder for the bill to move forward if you didn't make concessions and agree to be a part of advocating for the bill.
Thank you for the question, and thank you for including us in that round of stakeholders. So YouTube sits in a very unique kind of universe. We not only have our users and music partners and media partners, but we also have creators. And that is one area where this idea of digital replicas can cause real world harm. So in addition to supporting No Fakes, which gives them the individual right to remove content not just from YouTube but from other platforms, we're continuing to invest in new technology, which we refer to as likeness ID, which will allow our participating members in our pilot to have their face and voice scanned, and we'll be able to match across our platform. So we're continuing to invest in this technology as we see it's a top issue.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Senator Blackburn, Ranking Member Klobuchar.
Thank you, Senator Coons. Mr. Glazier, I want you to touch on contracts. We've had quite a discussion this week on copyright. And as artists negotiate these contracts for their name, their image, their likeness, recently SAG-AFTRA made a move in some of their negotiations on this. But talk a little bit about the importance of having a federal standard as it relates to standard contract law.
Yeah, this goes to the very essence of consent for the artist. And so not only does the No Fakes Act give control and consent to the individual about the use of their voice and the use of their likeness, it also imposes some guardrails around what those, the length of those contracts, what those contracts mean when the person is alive, what that person means after the person passes. And it also has special provisions that protect minors who might enter into contracts that includes parents and guardians and also court authority. So it does a very good job of preventing abuse while giving the power to the individual whose voice is at stake and whose image is at stake in being able to license it.
Thank you so much. Ms. Price, I want you to submit to us, you can do this in writing. When we look at the physical world and the statutes that exist for protecting individuals from some of the harms that you've listed today, and the importance of Take It Down and the importance of No Fakes, but we don't have all of those criminal statutes that transfer to the virtual space. And I would like for you to give me a summary of your thoughts on that. Your testimony is expansive and helpful. As I said, we've submitted that whole testimony. Mr. Brookman, we've submitted your entire testimony also, and we thank you for that. But I would like to have just a little bit more from you on that issue of those protections. As we've talked about No Fakes and the Copyright Act and NCOSE, we talk often about this difference, and you touched on it, and I'd like to have something more expansive. With that, we have no further members present and no further questions. I will remind you all.
Oh, come on, Kennedy, where are you?
Submit questions for the record,
Well,
and then you're going
fine.
to have 10 days to return those answers to us. I thank you all. Our witnesses have been wonderful today. We appreciate your testimony for the record. And with that, the hearing is adjourned.
Well, you heard it. Hearing's adjourned. We got Hawley. We didn't get Kennedy. We got them in the morning. There were some nominations. I couldn't make it to that, but I'm going to clip it. Rest assured, it will be clipped. This one is on the books, in the books. Tomorrow, on the House side of things, that's Thursday, May 22nd, Committee on Foreign Affairs has a couple of hearings scheduled, but that's it. That's it. We do sometimes follow foreign affairs, assessing the terror threat landscape in South and Central Asia and examining opportunities for cooperation and a dire crisis in Sudan, a global call to action. Okay. On the Senate side of the Capitol, let's say tomorrow, wow, long day in the Senate today. Tomorrow, Thursday, May 22nd, appropriations, but of course, banking, housing, and urban affairs. Judiciary, which is what we're looking for. Business meeting to consider the nominations of Terrence Cole of Virginia to be the administrator of drug enforcement. Someone Serralta of Florida to be the director of the United States Marshal Service. And David Charles Waterman to be the United States Attorney for the Southern District of Iowa. All of the Department of Justice. Okay. Later that day, or I should say, 15 minutes later that day, appropriations, hearing to examine the FDA budget, appropriations again, National Guard and Reserve budgets, and then business meeting for the Nominations and Health, Education, Labor, and Pensions Committee for us, a list of people. But we're most concerned with Judiciary. Sometimes we'll watch oversight. When those two things aren't happening, occasionally Foreign Affairs and Budget. Thank you, Purge World, and thank you for laughing before. Sometimes I feel like I'm just chatting into the void. I'm just kidding. One of the reasons I like this channel so much is because the chat room reminds me of a 90s AOL chat, and I enjoy it. King James, you made it just at the very end. Let me do a little... You get an emoji salute, and a real salute, and a ahoy, sir. Because I happen to be looking at the chat. There we go. Yes, thank you, everybody. I like Marsh. Marsh is good. Marsh is solid. She reminds me of my mom a little bit. What are you going to do? Yes, so we're not quite wrapped up for the week. We have some nominations in Judiciary tomorrow, but that will bring us our week to a screeching halt after that. Friday, it doesn't look like there's anything on either side of the Congress there, on the Senate side or the House side. So tomorrow, after Judiciary hearing, we're going to wash our hands of the whole situation. I'm just kidding. We'll start clipping up stuff from this week. It was pretty good. Pretty good week, pretty eventful week. If you're not following, budget season is upon us, which is for the fiscal year 2026. All the agencies and federal agencies and all of our new favorite people, the Bobby Kennedys of the world, the Christy Nomes, Kash Patels, they're going in front of various committees and giving their budget. Hilariously, some of them don't really have budgets, like a paragraph of what their hopes and dreams are for next year. But what I think that is they don't want to tip their hand or hat, or they don't want to tip off what they have coming. I hope, right? Please bring back Alcatraz, please. I saw on the grapevine there, which is X, Twitter, that I think Pam Bondi might be looking at charging Alejandro Mayorkas with treason. I really hope that's true. I feel like treason does not get charged enough, and there are plenty of examples of it. So if that starts happening, that's good. And that it's not just good. A lot of people, you hear it day in and day out when you do this kind of stuff, is nothing ever happens. It's all political theater. But, it is until things accumulate to a point and the circumstances are just right for something to happen. Last Congress, which was, the Senate was composed of a Democrat majority. What does that mean? That means when stuff like they're supposed to have an impeachment trial for Mayorkas, it never even comes to the floor, right? We had a Democrat executive, which means when the DOJ should be bringing Garland into a contempt of Congress action against him in some capacity, they were like, we're not going to do that. And so in those circumstances, when the timing and the atmosphere is just not right, it is a little bit of political theater. But it's not just political theater, because you are accumulating facts and evidence and gathering all that stuff. So later, when the atmosphere and the environment is just right, you can bring those types of things, right? Maybe not impeachment, but now we're talking about treason, which, something, right? So that is hopeful. Hopefully it's not just a rumor. Hopefully the Department of Justice is actually looking at it. Okay, that's all I had. As I am going to sign off, James O'Keefe's been all over the news lately, right? He's been putting up videos of Epstein's Island, and I think he's got some posts on what happened between him and Veritas, which should be interesting. Oh, but that's all I have for you. We were on Rakita earlier this week. That was a blast. I don't usually do trial coverage. It requires you to be there every day. So being a guest on trial coverage is right up my alley. I like the hearings. I just said on Rakita's thing, it's they're contained right in a day. It's a bottle episode every time. I enjoy the flow, the beats, and yes. So we're staying here. We're good through at least 2029. That's when Senator Kennedy is up for re-election. Hey, yes, King James. Yes, yes, sir. Good night, sir. I don't know. Are you overseas? I had no idea. Australia? I don't know. Good night, though. Little early where I'm sitting. But with that said, I'll leave you all to it. As I like to say, knowledge is power. Subscribe for more. Or fight brain rot. subscribe. Whichever one you like better. Go with that. Thank you so much. How am I related to Keanu? I'm not. Do you know when they vote on the bill? I don't. The committee or the House, I could say, I don't know when, but I know that it'll have to make it out of committee if they're, I'm not sure which bill we're actually talking about right now, take it down or something related to the deepfakes. It seems to be there's a few of these bills making their way through various committees right now. So that's my answer. All right. Thank you all. I'll see you next time. Be well and take care.